Hey, and thanks for joining us on this week's episode of For All Things Lexington, the only show dedicated to Lexington, South Carolina, and where a spade is always a spade. Here we'll talk to and about people, places, groups, things to do, and places to go in and around Lexington, South Carolina. I'm your host, Angela Barrett, and this is For All Things Lexington. Brought to you in part by GervaisStreetBridge.com, Columbia's most unforgettable free-to-list business directory. Hey guys, thanks for being with me on this Thursday. Today I am with Kevin Snow, the owner and operator of 12 Oak Estates, a wedding venue, and it is gorgeous out here.
Oh, thank you so very much.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have you here.
Yes, thank you for having me. This is great. We actually met one day when you were out driving that gorgeous car, Oliva, I think.
Yes.
What kind of car is that?
That is a 1953 MG TD.
Wow. And she's gorgeous. Now, and that's something that can be worked in a wedding package as a...
Yes.
And different photo ops if somebody just wanted to do photo ops with the car, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So obviously I don't mind driving around town. First of all, it gets great gas mileage, which is sometimes important, But also it's a way for me to get out in the community and kind of advertise a little bit. I had a sign that I sat on the front of it because...
That's how I ended up walking up to you. Right? I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I'm kind of a car person.
It's fun. I drive around, people are honking at me and waving and smiling and, just like your car. And I think it brings happiness to people as I'm cruising around. So that's kind of fun because it's not something you see every day.
Oh, no. She's definitely gorgeous.
Yeah, but it was definitely something that I intended to use here at 12 Oak Estate that people can take their pictures with, climb up on whenever it's like their send-off at the end of the night to get some cool videos. But if somebody wanted to use it for a photo shoot somewhere, I don't mind driving it off property and allow someone to do that.
Yeah. You've actually had, were there some models that used that car at one point? I was going to say, that's actually been done.
Yes. So it's fairly common that we'll have folks who want to come out here to the property and do some sort of styled shoot, showing off dresses, makeup, and hair. And then I've also taken it over to New York Bride and Groom, which is a bridal ground shop.
Yes.
Just over the way in Irmo. And I've set it up there, and they've put their dresses on and come out and posed with it. And it's a lot of fun. Yeah,
it looked like a lot of fun, yeah. So tell us about where we are in the history of the beautiful grounds in the house.
Absolutely. So we're still here in Lexington, of course.
Yes.
Out in the Red Bank towards Pelion area, which excitedly for me is growing this way. There's a lot of infrastructure that's happening out here, and I'm like, cool, people are going to come out this way.
Yeah.
And
Lexington's full.
Yes. So send them out this way a little bit, and we can get into this a little bit farther into our conversation. But the property here was originally owned by the Spence family. Mm-hmm. So anyone super familiar with the area is going to know of Spence Island on Lake Murray.
Yes.
The Floyd Spence post office over here on South Lake Drive. And one of his relatives started this. And it's not as old as it would appear to look. It was built to be, have the appearance of an old world home. And it was a horse farm for them. But the property is just over 100 acres. Mm-hmm. So they were, training and riding and had trails. However, there's some deeper past history here that I would love to know more about. If anybody out there could help me out with this, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Because I've been out in the woods here exploring, and there's like some old cabins that are out there. Nothing you could really do anything with. They're covered in brambles and falling apart.
Sure. But
it's interesting to see that and be like, oh, someone's dream. Somebody's life, somebody's livelihood, whatever it might have been for them, was out there in the woods. And there's old railroad tracks back there that no longer, operate.
Right.
But they're situated right along the railroad tracks. So I don't really know what that was, but I do know the Spence family created this. And then when they sold it, it went to some other owners who were into aviation, and they built an airplane hangar and had a grass runway, which served me well after they left, because whenever I purchased it, I was looking for a place to turn into a beautiful wedding venue. Mm-hmm. Obviously, when you turn down the driveway here, you see the 12 oak trees, hence the name. But that airplane hangar serves as our reception space.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so I've renovated that. It has a bar and a dance floor and dance lighting built into it, all the amenities that you need. Tables, chairs, linens, the whole 9 yards. Photo, selfie wall, all sorts of fun stuff over there. So that project was a lot of fun, and there's still more that I'm wanting to do with that. But the house is the center of the property. You have these, beautiful large fields as you come in.
Right.
It just serves as a really unique and pretty backdrop for a wedding or an event.
Yeah, it's a very picturesque. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yes,
as you're driving in through the trees, and you're like, wow.
I will accept picturesque is perfectly fine. Maybe like you're went into a movie.
Yeah, it would be a great scene for the beginning of a movie as you were going in.
Yeah,
Gone with the Wind type thing.
It's not something that you really see this close to the Lexington or Columbia area. You would think, it's almost like it's hidden in plain view here.
Yes.
Who knew something like this was just sitting right out here, waiting to be discovered and used.
Yes. And I actually, coming from the main highway, passed the road the first time. I was like, oh, I think I was supposed to turn there.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're right. You just didn't even know I was there. So you started, now this was already a wedding venue, you were saying?
No, it was private residence.
Private residence. And so you came and started a wedding venue when?
2018.
2018.
Yes, it was in October of 18 that I acquired the property, spent about a year fixing it up, getting everything, in line with the county and ready for folks to come in and enjoy it and have a good time. So our very first wedding was in November of 2019.
Yeah.
So about a year, getting it ready. 2019 comes, we're cheering.
Oh, no.
I think everybody knows where this story's going.
Yes. No.
2020 happens, and it was one of those things where, you always, since the beginning of time, people have come together. They've gathered around the fire, so to speak, to celebrate life and have these ceremonies and events. And you think, oh, this is one of those things that will always be there. And then a pandemic comes out of left field. And
yeah,
it was definitely a scary time where we were trying to pivot and figure out some things that we could do that were going along with the state mandates.
Sure.
But what was interesting with us being a very new venue, and did not have a lot of concrete things that we were stuck in our ways. We said, well, let's just have very small micro weddings, rather than someone go into the courthouse to have their wedding. Let's offer this in some way to folks.
Sure.
And therefore, 3 people came, 10 people, whatever, was allowed. And that actually opened the door to people who are like, we're not really from around here. We don't have a lot of friends and family who are going to be coming to our wedding, and we would have never had the opportunity to have a place like this.
Right.
So we can do our micro wedding here because you're offering those. So we got some business out of that. And then good news, bad news for some other venues, as people had to push their dates farther out.
Right.
A lot of other venues were already booked on those dates. So some people became slightly venue homeless.
Right.
But we weren't filled up yet.
Right.
So we started getting a lot of things coming our way, and it, boosted us a little bit and gave us a little bit of a jump start. So somewhat of a blessing in disguise once we got through the pandemic.
Right.
Because who knew?
Hey, that's a great story, because not everybody can say that about their business through the pandemic. So that's a phenomenal story. And speaking of, I guess by the time all this said and done, you had grown, because y'all won the state wedding venue in 22, right?
Yes,
last year.
With the state's best. We have won that. Lexington Chronicles.
Yeah.
At least once or twice there. There's probably been some free times awards, scattered in there as well. So people are really, it's one of those things where people all the time say, we had no idea this place was here.
Right.
But then at the same time, there's some movers and shakers out there and people who are pushing us and people are voting for it. And like, that's really encouraging and it's exciting and it feels good to have that. So, you know, we're definitely excited about the accolades that we've, started to.
And again, I didn't know this was until, we met that day. I didn't know this was out here. But again, I'm not getting married, and it's been quite a minute, 30-some years ago. So
sure, yeah. So it's not really the market of what you're looking for. You're not necessarily the demographic
that's correct.
Of people that we're trying to reach.
Yeah. But I was excited when I found out about it. How did you get into this? How did you get started? I mean, what made you say, I want to do a wedding venue?
Yeah, because I'm sure that's something that, would have never crossed my mind. Of course, when I was in high school, I was going to be a rock star.
Sure. Movie star.
Yeah. Both of those hopefully would have happened. I took piano lessons and guitar and violin. And when I went to college, I was actually an art major. So I love music, I love the arts. And then somewhere in college, I decided I've done too much of that in my life, but I haven't really done enough theater. So I got a theater degree and I backed that up with an education degree so that I could go into teaching. And I really loved that. I taught theater and public speaking. Mm-hmm. And I still was pursuing some of those other artistic things I was doing I did community theater at Village Square Theater.
Oh, yeah.
And I was singing karaoke places, and I was in the karaoke competition. And Tokyo Joe,
yes,
a phenomenal band.
Yes, Greg Bickley.
Yes,
saw him last weekend.
Yep, I love Greg.
With the Elton John.
I don't jokingly tell Greg this, but at this point, it's become a joke that Greg actually, in a way, changed my life because that karaoke competition. The culmination of it, rather than singing karaoke, you sang with the band.
Oh.
And Tokyo Joe played, I sang, and I won the competition.
Nice.
And from that, it started opening these doors of people wanting me to host karaoke. And so I started a karaoke business, and that flourished. And I was able to focus primarily on that. But I didn't have much of a plan. It just, things were growing and I was having a lot of fun, and it turned into me DJing, which then led into DJing private events and weddings. And when I DJ'd my first wedding, some magic happened where to me, I realized weddings were just real life theater.
Yes.
No pun intended, because of like the drama, that some people are like, oh, I bet there's a bunch of drama at weddings. No, it's not like that. It's, you have these people who are in a role and you have an audience and their costume and makeup and there's programs and you create this moment with a beginning, middle, and end and cue the music, do the lights, create the magic.
Right.
It's a production.
Yeah.
And so then I fell in love with the idea of weddings because it was real life theater and it's real people and I get to be a part of their story and part of the production and just bring someone's dream and vision to life. And then that's when I kind of realized the wedding industry was the direction I really wanted to go all in on. And rather than only being the DJ, because I used to say I'm not going to be young and cool forever. I'm like,
sure you are.
I'll be cool forever. But I was like, I want to have the stage. I want to have the space where I've worked at so many venues all over South Carolina, Southeast even. There were things that I really liked about venues, things that I would change if I had my own. I was like, one day I'm going to have my own venue. I'm going to put all the things that I love about wedding venues together into one space. And that's the point where we are right now. And I'm still trying to build that and work on it. And it's, but so far so good.
Yeah. So tell me, what is it that you think it takes to make a great wedding event? Because, I mean, like you said, it's a live production and you got one shot. It's like being a photographer. There is no redo.
That is absolutely correct. And that's why every wedding, I think what really can separate an event is you want your wedding to be a little bit different than everybody else's.
Yes.
But the hard part of that is and I'm not knocking any of these things, but you've got very famous popular publications like The Knot, and Martha Stewart has her wedding things that she does, and you see all of these pictures and you see what's going on TV.
Sure.
And you think, I want a wedding like that. I want this. And then there's these trends that change every year, and people try to keep up with the trends, and all of these trends, they're expensive.
Right.
A lot of the times, like these pictures that you're seeing in the magazines don't necessarily always have a price tag.
Correct.
Right? And so people build this idea of what they think a wedding should be, and they've seen other people's weddings and they feel like that's how a wedding is supposed to be, when really there shouldn't be that many rules,
right,
so to speak, to someone's wedding. You don't want all of your guests to show up and think you're like this insane crazy person because of how you do your wedding, unless that's how you portray yourself. But
right.
By not trying to copy everything else that you see and making it personal to your own vision,
right,
is really important. Also, because what happens is I've had clients who ask me, I'll say, so what do you want to do for X part of your wedding? They're like, I don't know, what's everyone else do? And then I'm just like, okay, we're going to have to do pull something out of you here, because I don't want to do exactly what everyone else does, because at the end of the day, when your wedding's over, it doesn't matter how much money you spend on it. Some people spend exorbitant amounts of money, and then afterwards their guests are like, oh, it was beautiful. And that's like, you just spent how much money on a wedding, and the best they're going to say is how beautiful it was. And it's because all they can really compare it to is just other weddings. There wasn't something that was that X factor that makes that wedding stand out.
Yeah.
So, and it's not something where I can say what any of those secrets are right now. I have to meet with the clients and try to figure out like what's going to be that little special thing.
Right.
Just one little thing that you can tweak and somewhat hyper focus on to make that wedding unique.
Yes.
And so to answer that question, to make your wedding successful doesn't necessarily always mean throw a lot of money at it. That we include a lot of things here that can help ease things on your pocket a little bit, but you don't have to use us. Like I DJ, but I don't have to be your DJ here. If you want to bring another DJ or a band, I'm all for it. We can provide a coordinator, a photographer. You don't have to use our people, because again, it is about our client's vision.
Right.
But I just want to make sure that they are getting the best they can for their vision.
Right. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and we hope you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or have a person, business, idea, an event that Lexington needs to know more about, email me, local@forallthingslexington.com. That's the number 4, y'all.
This episode was brought to you by the real estate agents at Home Matters, building on service, relationships, and on what matters to you. Find out how you matter and how they can help you with buying and selling your home at homematterssc.com.